Have you ever wondered why corruption persists, even in democratic nations that champion transparency and the rule of law? It's a paradox that baffles many. After all, aren't democracies supposed to be bastions of fairness, where the will of the people reigns supreme? Yet corruption, that insidious underminer of trust and justice, somehow finds a way to thrive. This contradiction sparks curiosity, doesn't it? Today, we will delve into this paradox and try to uncover the reasons behind this persistent issue. To understand this conundrum, we'll dive into a case study. Picture a country thriving in democratic principles, yet grappling with corruption. An enigma, isn't it? Our case study is such a paradox. We'll be exploring this country as a microcosm, a small-scale representation of the larger issue at hand. Now, this case study isn't just about pointing fingers at a particular nation. Instead, it's about understanding the underlying mechanisms that allow corruption to persist, even in the face of democracy. We'll be delving into the intricacies of the political structure, the loopholes in the legal system, and the societal norms that may inadvertently foster corruption. We'll also examine the role of power dynamics and how they can sometimes blur the line between right and wrong. This journey will take us through a complex maze of political maneuvering, legal gymnastics, and social acceptance. Let's dive into the world of corruption, where things aren't always as they seem. As we unravel this case, we begin to see the intricate web of corruption. Let's dive deeper into the specifics to understand the factors that contribute to the persistence of corruption in democratic societies. Firstly, the abuse of power is a prominent issue. In our case study, we observe that those in positions of authority often misuse their power for personal gain. They exploit the trust bestowed upon them, making decisions that serve their interests rather than those of the public. This abuse is often covered and hidden beneath layers of bureaucracy, making it difficult to detect and address. Secondly, systemic weaknesses play a significant role in perpetuating corruption. Weak institutions, lack of transparency, and inadequate checks and balances allow corruption to fester. In our case study, these weaknesses are evident in the functioning of the government. The systems that are supposed to uphold integrity and accountability often fall short, creating an environment ripe for corruption. Further, cultural norms also enable corruption. In some societies, practices such as bribery and nepotism are ingrained in the culture, viewed as the way things are done. This acceptance of corruption as a norm makes it a difficult cycle to break. Our case study clearly illustrates how these cultural norms can perpetuate corruption, making it seem almost unavoidable. Lastly, it's crucial to understand that the persistence of corruption is not merely a failure of individual morality. It's a systemic issue, deeply intertwined with the structure of our societies. This case study reveals the complex dynamics at play, demonstrating how corruption can thrive even in democratic systems where power is supposed to be distributed and accountable. Corruption is like a parasite, feeding off the weaknesses in our systems, our acceptance of unethical norms, and the abuse of power. It's not just about a few bad apples, it's about the orchard that allows the bad apples to thrive. As we can see, corruption isn't just about individuals acting dishonestly. It's a complex issue rooted in the very structure of our societies. So, what have we learned from our deep dive into the murky world of corruption? Let's circle back to the main points. First, we've unearthed the paradox that even in democracies, where power is supposed to be in the hands of the people, corruption continues to thrive. This is largely due to a lack of transparency and accountability that allows for the misuse of power. Second, we've examined a case study that showcased how corruption can seep into the very foundations of a society, eroding trust and impeding progress. This case study has further illuminated the intricate web of factors that contribute to the persistence of corruption. Third, we've dissected the case study to understand the underlying issues that fuel corruption. We've seen that corruption is not merely a matter of a few bad apples, but rather a systemic issue that is deeply entrenched in societal structures. So, it's clear that corruption is a complex issue that requires comprehensive solutions. It's not enough to simply punish the wrongdoers. We need to address the root causes, such as lack of transparency, inadequate legal frameworks, and societal attitudes that enable corruption. Corruption persists because it is not just a problem of individuals, but of systems. To tackle it, we need to look beyond the surface and address the underlying issues. Only then can we hope to create societies that are truly transparent, fair, and democratic.